It was absolutely enormous. So while I talk about that, I'll get a 2017 car on track because I think people will want to see that go round.
But
So,
you mentioned 2017 car on track,
yeah,
because in F1 2017, you guys are doing something new.
we are. So I'll start with the overhaul to career this year has been to firstly address some of the things that the fans really wanted last year. So first up, I mean, you would have seen there that I'm playing as a male avatar. You know, we've added female avatars to the game this year. So because we do have a lot of female fans who love the sport and they want to play the game. So, you know, that was something we always wanted to try and do, and we've managed to achieve that this year.
So there's no hard rule in F1 as a sport that there are no female drivers, is there?
No, and there's been female test drivers up to now. And I'm sure that it's only a short matter of time now before one of them actually makes it into the sport, you know, fully. So that was just one of the things that we wanted to do to give people more, you know, attachment to the game. And then obviously last year we had a really in-depth career. You know, it was a 10-season career with a really nice R&D system in there where the player took part in practice programs to earn R&D points to improve their vehicle.
So you mentioned kind of the dedication of Codemasters fans and how much they play these games and at what length. Last year we had a 10-season career mode that people, or 10-year career mode that people could play. The R&D system is so intricate. It's almost they're almost RPG, like significant RPG elements to it.
So this year, last year was quite a linear system. This year, it's very much an R&D, a very wide-ranging sort of skills tree system almost. So the player can choose the path that they take the car. So it's a case of, you know, you can start working on a certain area and then you'll hit an upgrade that's obviously going to cost you significantly more to develop. But also upgrades can fail. You know, they're not necessarily guaranteed to be successful. So that's where the player can also look at improving areas of the team so that the R&D upgrades are delivered either earlier or you know, with a level of reliability that they might not have had previously. So it gives the player a really totally open experience with that, and they can, you know, take a team from the bottom to the top, and they can do it how they choose to do it.
Speaking of coming from the bottom to the top, I know that Haas was a new team last year, an American team. Where do you see the standings this year as a sport, and how does that influence and how does that affect the actual game when you're able to play it in August?
I think the most noticeable thing this year is that Ferrari are really competitive. You know, it's brilliant to have two teams really mixing it up at the front, and also the Red Bull team. You know, they're traditionally been very, very strong. The car's obviously a great chassis. They still are, you know, developing the engine further. You know, I think it's only a matter of time before we have three front-running teams. The difference in the midfield is that everybody's really closed up. You know, the racing in the midfield is incredibly close, and that's something that, you know, we replicate very closely in the game. We spend a lot of time scrutinising the results, looking at the lap times, looking at the placements, and, you know, we replicate that in the game.
Well, there are obviously fans that want the simulation, that want to be able to play and simulate the season, the real sport. But for those that want to just enjoy the exhilaration of racing, but want to do it in another way, are there ways that they can experience tracks outside of the way they would normally see them represented on TV? Yeah,
so I think there's quite a few things we've done this year which will mix the experience up a little bit for players. So I think obviously the first one and the most obvious one is that we've introduced some classic cars to the game, some absolutely iconic cars from the world of Formula One. You know, we've got obviously the 2010 Red Bulls in there at the moment. We've announced that. We've got the selection of Ferraris, and the player can use that content in so many different ways.
Well, we just announced a new car today, right?
We announced some Ferraris today, a selection of Ferraris that are going to be in the game. And what we wanted to do with the classics was, we know how much everybody plays the career, we know how important that is to people, and they don't want to take part in the career and then have to leave that part of the game to go and do other things. You know, they want to be bettering and improving their career. So the classic cars are also featured throughout there. So as last year we introduced two characters to the game who, you know, lead you through your career. They deal with your contracts, they deal with your R&D. We've now got a guy who's a bit of a rich guy. You know, he swans into the hospitality, and he's got an air of sort of confidence about him, and he's a guy who owns a selection of classic cars. And what he does is he comes and invites you to drive his cars, you know, on weekends where there's no races, and is to go and take part in different types of racing, different styles of racing. So it's very much like modern day, sort of a Goodwood Revival, Goodwood Festival of Speed style event. You know, he'll invite you to either do like a pursuit where you have to chase down slower cars in a really fast Formula One car.
So essentially you guys added story mode elements to have the classic cars make sense within the overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much what you see in real life. You know, you regularly see the drivers on their off weekends taking part in other events, driving classic cars that, you know, people from the same team would have driven in previous years. So we wanted to make that a big part of the career. You know, it impacts on your perception with the team, it impacts on your how the fans, you know, perceive you. So obviously your overall rating in the team can be affected by how you perform in these events as well.
Well, the track looks gorgeous. You've done significant improvements even from last year. Can we show just some of the lighting and some of the different tracks?
Let's pick. So something which you can see here as I flick through these menus,
okay.
Which I'll highlight, is that there's a Bahrain short there. So in order to really make great use of some of this new content we've got in there, we've also added in some short circuit layouts to mix things up a little bit. So because we've got these different styles of gameplay, such as the pursuit or the the time attack style gameplay. We wanted to change some of the circuits a little bit as well and give sort of a snappier sort of style. So as you can see there's a Bahrain short circuit, there's also an Austin, Texas short circuit, and we've got a couple more which we're yet to announce. So again, it's something new and something fresh to the series that we've never done before.
And this is content that fans of F1 would never be able to experience otherwise.
Certainly not in an official Formula 1 game.
Right.
It's the first time we've been able to do this, and it really does mix things up again. It keeps it feeling different, feeling fresh every year, and also they can use the classic content outside of the career as well. So you can use it in time trial, you can use it online, you can use it in the Grand Prix mode, and what we've done to allow the players to really get the most out of them. In online games, for example, they can run any of the classic cars. There's no team structure in that anymore. So instead of having to worry about two people driving the same car, you can actually have a whole grid of the same car if you choose to do so. And you know, we create different styles of racing with spec racing, so it's all the same car, or racing classes within races. So there's two classes. So there's the super fast guys in the C1s and the slightly slower cars in the C2s. So you know, you can use all of the classic content together on track at the same time and get a different experience.
Now, obviously, when you have the driving line on right now, which is kind of an aided assist to help you along the track. In the last year, you were using gates as a training mode to train around laps. Is there any more content like that to help maybe ease new players into the game? Or
so the gates were used in the practice programs last year, and in one of the new game modes, which I will happily show you now.